Okay, so this black woman said this.
Our government, no matter who is in power, has an obligation to right these wrongs, to provide reparations for descendants of enslaved Africans, to eliminate the racial wealth gap, to uplift the black community. White supremacy is rampant in this country. Just look at the current administration and our own legislative body. They have contributed to the social and economic harms, to racial terror black folks have experienced in this country. Now, more than ever, we must acknowledge and repair those harms.
And now this guy has gone viral for his response to that video. So let's hear what he has to say.
Many of us are still behind and we still don't get it. Black Americans do not need reparations. We need different values and better spending habits. Let's think about what she said specifically.
To eliminate the racial wealth gap.
Reparations aren't going to eliminate the wealth gap.
He's actually right about that part. Money alone won't do the trick. Now I know what you're thinking. What about the Indians? What about the Jews? They receive reparations and they're doing just fine as a group. And you would be correct in saying that. But our situation is way more deeper than that. You see, we're the only race of people targeted for extinction. That sounds dramatic, but listen to me. That's why the Constitution has amendments that pertain specifically to black Americans. An amendment means to change or to modify something. Basically, the Constitution was originally written in a way that was painfully obvious that our great-grandparents and their children were never supposed to get out of slavery. When we did, they gave us Jim Crow legal segregation for 100 years. And we weren't supposed to get out of that either. But when we did, they changed laws and created policy that would ensure that we would have a hard time getting loans or access to capital or land, or take part in home ownership to build wealth and then pass it down to our children since wealth is mainly inherited. They would also have to undo over 100+ years of massacres on black establishments and towns that we built during legal segregation. So yeah, until they reverse all of that, then money alone won't fix what the federal government and white racist mobs have broken. But cash reparations, like everyone else has received, would be a great start.
For example, in 2021, black spending power reached a record $1.6 trillion, but our net worth decreased. And if you look at the smaller text, it says it decreased by 14%. So we had more spending power than ever. And with more spending power than we've ever had, we made our financial situation worse. Literally. Really think about that. We had more spending power than we've ever had in the history of our existence, and we made our financial situation worse with more spending power.
You see, this is another game these coons like to play. In their mind, they think all black folks are stupid. So they think that you're just going to see him point to this article from 2021, then out of his mouth say a bunch of big words and blah, 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 and then somehow subconsciously you'll connect the two or think that the two are connected. When really what he's not telling you is spending power is separate from your net worth. They're not the same thing. Spending power refers to the total amount of money available to a group for consumption or spending. It's influenced by your income, your credit access, and your economic activity. Your net worth is the total value of assets like your homes, your investments, savings, minus liabilities like debt and loans. It reflects long-term wealth accumulation, not just short-term spending ability. You see, what Jeff is trying to do is conflate the two, suggesting that increased spending power should automatically lead to increased net worth. However, spending power is about income flow, while net worth is about asset accumulation. Even if black Americans had more money to spend in 2021, it doesn't mean they had the means to build wealth, especially when systemic barriers to asset ownership persist.
We don't need reparations. What we need are different values and different spending habits. And the majority of the black community has not woken up to this yet.
I wonder what group's values he's comparing ours to. Is it white America's that not only wrote racist laws like the Fugitive Slave Act, but allowed the common poor white man to violently enforce them on us? Or is it the Native Americans who agreed to become slave catchers for their own freedom? Or is it the European peasants who came here and were given 160-acre land grabs under the Homestead Act, which was a racist federal policy? I wonder who he's talking about. Well, regardless of who he's talking about, I'm sure these people are really great people and they did nothing wrong.
That's why you still have these individuals out here advocating for black people, but they're not doing anything beneficial. I need you to truly think about what I just said. We were given more money, and with that, we worsened our financial situation.
Okay, wait. That was the trick bag right there. He said we were given more money. No one gave black folks more money. We worked for it. We earned it under the threat of death and rape and torture. You see, this is how these coons think, and this is how these coons move. It seems like an innocent statement, but it's really not. It subconsciously gives people the dirty idea that black folks were paid reparations, and then we just blew the money because, well, we have bad spending habits. And now we're back at the negotiation table begging for more money. Clearly his audience is white, and these coons say stuff like this to rile up these white folks with inaccurate talking points so they can go online and go on podcasts and use them against us. Just thought I'd point out that little cap-ass line he threw in there. This is definitely water fountain coon talk. His evidence that reparations are unnecessary, claiming black folks have worsened their financial situation just due to frivolous spending, is false. However, this narrative does ignore the fact that the federal government created and perpetuated the racial wealth gap. After the Civil War, formerly enslaved individuals, which were our great-grandparents, were promised 40-acre land grabs under General Sherman's Special Order No. 15. While 400,000 acres were initially distributed to approximately 40,000 freedmen, these lands were quickly seized and returned to the former slave owners by President Andrew Johnson. If the full promise of 40-acre land grants had been honored, black Americans would have collectively received 40 million acres of land, laying a foundational asset base for generational wealth. Instead, they were left with nothing. How can spending habits correct a legacy of stolen opportunities and assets? How is better values supposed to fix that? But if we let buck-broken black men like Sissy Jeff over here speak for us, then we'll all find ourselves just bending over.
These politicians and many in the black community are focused on the wrong things. And this is not me hating on my people. This is me being honest. Most of us don't know how to handle money. We don't know how to invest. We don't know how to build passive income. Many of us are focused on looking rich than we actually are about being rich.
It's funny he's bringing this up. The median white household has 8 times the wealth of the median black household, and that's according to the Federal Reserve in 2022. This disparity limits the ability to invest in stocks, real estate, or businesses, all the things that he just named off that he thinks we're too dumb to do. Black communities are more likely to be located in banking deserts, which limit access to traditional financial institutions that offer capital. According to the U.S. Small Business Administration, black entrepreneurs face higher rejection rates for business loans even when our credit worthiness is equal to or better than our white counterparts. White families are far more likely to receive an inheritance or intergenerational wealth transfers, providing a financial foundation for passive income. But if you let Jeff the Coon here tell our story, then he'll tell you we're just a bunch of complaining beggars who buy too many gold chains and Jordans.
Like, this whole reparations talking point and the white supremacy talking point is tired. It's stale. It's dead.
Actually, white supremacy is still alive. Donald Trump running for president twice while still facing 91 felony charges, plus giving his friend, who was an unelected official by the way, keys to the nation's treasury payment system, is an example of clear white supremacy being very much alive. Can you see the difference now? Let's go ahead and let Jeff take us home.
We as a community need to take accountability for our own actions and start making better decisions consistently.
What's all this we talk? Ain't no we. You're a coon.
Your life at this point is basically a result of the decisions you've made up until this point. And there is not enough talk about personal accountability and decision making. Decision making is the absolute #1 determining factor in how your life plays out in the United States.
You mean making decisions like enslaving black people and then writing laws to prevent them from building generational wealth based on skin color? All right, yeah, I guess that's a good decision. I guess she got me there, dude.
We talk too much about history racism and being a victim and not enough about continuously making good decisions and stacking those good decisions on top of each other over time. That is what will get you where you want to be, not reparations and crying about the white man.
Notice he's really careful not to name what those bad decisions were that black folks made as a group. He can't name one bad decision that black folks made that resulted in the government feeling the need to create federal policies that excluded blacks from wealth building based on skin color. Just more of the same lift yourself up by your bootstraps nonsense. His white audience loves this kind of talk from him. It's like red rancid meat for wild animals. Just think about your dog and how excited they would look to see a trash can fall over. Now you can imagine the looks on his white audience's faces when they hear him saying this type of nonsense.
We need to evolve past this mindset. It's not getting us anywhere.
We've been playing by these rules for centuries, and it's gotten us nowhere. The wealth gap is still massive, and we own less now than we did during segregation. The problem isn't just individual decisions, it's clearly the system. A bunch of confused rich Negroes pulling in different directions is not the answer. We need collective power to break these types of barriers. Now, Jeff Mead comes from a lineage of Negroes who picked cotton with yours and told them they would never get out of slavery, so we might as well stop complaining and keep picking the cotton. Then we got free from chattel slavery. Then Jeff Mead's great-grandparents told yours that we would never get out of Jim Crow legal segregation because the American government is just way too strong to take on. Then we got out of that. And now Jeff Mead himself is telling the descendants of slaves that we'll never get reparations because we're just not smart enough or just too lazy. Clearly, Jeff Mead comes from a lineage of cowards. It's time to stop waiting for the system to change for us. We, us Black Americans, need to change the system ourselves.